All right, Steve and Nancy, this is Troy from GMI Roofing. I'm going to start here towards the front of the roof and then work our way backwards. I want to show you basically the state of the roof and then a couple things about the way that it was built. In this section near the chimney, you have a lot of this type of damage where this shingle was folded or creased for some reason. This one's got a little chunk missing out of it, a big crack. These are all unusual type damages. I would say most of these probably happened when it was built. Now these right here, these look like typical hail damage. Normally though, when you have hail damage like that, it's kind of everywhere on that section of the roof, you know, wherever the hail came from. Where you've only got maybe, these are possible, but you don't really have it anywhere else. I would say probably not worth putting in an insurance claim, just because, you know, anytime you put in a claim that doesn't lead anywhere, I don't think that's good for you. But then you've got the cracking here. I don't have a good explanation for why this is right here in this area by the chimney. If it was birds, we would see more signs of birds, like bird droppings. Now as far as the way the roof was built, right here, so this is a transition between two shingles, this shingle and this shingle. Each shingle is 3 feet wide, and this is where they meet. Now underneath here, you should not find a nail within 5 inches. But right here, it's not just a nail, but a nail that has driven all the way through the shingle. So this is what we call blow through, and we'll talk about that more in just a minute. I didn't check between every one of these, but I noticed these were kind of popped up a little bit, and I wanted to see underneath there what that was. I don't think the nail caused that per se. It could have, but that's not good construction. 1 or 2 of those on a roof this size, it's not unusual to find them that much, and still say that you got a good roof. Normally when you see that though, you'll see it everywhere. Now the only other construction, until we get to there, issue that I want to point out is right here in this valley you have another nail. Now this nail is installed too low. It should be about right under my finger right here, and you can see this one. Let's get in close. This one has some rust on it. Any rusty nail means there's getting a lot of water to your nail. You don't want water on your nails ever, because as that nail rusts out, I mean even a nail that's not rusty is going to let water drip down inside. But after it rusts through, it's now smaller than it originally was. Water will just pour through, especially with it being in a valley. Valleys are where most of your water comes down. And you'll notice it's kind of a little bit more worn out right here next, in the middle of the valley. That's just because that's where all the water runs. So this nail, first of all, it's installed too low. Second, it's too close to the middle of the valley. It should be at least another couple inches away. Not crazy about that kind of construction. Now this is because of what we saw on the front. This is because of blow through. So you'll notice, well, let me first explain how these shingles are installed. So this is part of the second shingle. This is your first shingle, and you can see these holes where there was a nail installed. This one is at the very top of the nail zone. This one's outside the nail zone. And when you install this shingle on top of the shingle that's underneath it, this one would have hit, actually that's it right there. It hit that shingle. This one missed it. So that's why we like to see them in the nail zone. It gives you a second. So this shingle has 2 rows of nails that should be in it. The main nail zone is right here. That's the one we really care about. But the secondary benefit is you're going to get hit the second time when you put the next shingle on top. With your nail gun turned up, with the pressure turned up too high, you get these nails blowing through the shingle, sometimes only halfway, and that will hold the shingle down until the shingle starts to dry out, and then it cracks and this happens. The shingles just start to slide. when they start to slide, they delaminate. So this is half of your shingle. I think that's the other half of it, the bottom piece there. And there's not really any way to repair this. I mean, once that starts happening, you pretty much got to put it on the shingles here. The other thing I want to point out, tar paper. I'll talk to you about tar paper and what the alternatives are, but this is, if I can help it, I will not put tar paper on a house. But we look a little closer, we'll see there's some blow through here. These ones don't look too bad. These ones were blown through, that's why they're sliding. Doesn't seem like it was everywhere on the roof. Usually if you have that happen because of blow through, you find it everywhere. So this might have been where somebody bumped the pressure on their gun, didn't realize they turned it up too high. It's unusual though. Before I get off this part of the roof, I just want to point out also, this little doghouse roof looking thing is called a cricket. What its job is to channel water away from the chimney. And there's a couple things wrong with this. The way that they installed, the ones where I put the pink line with the chalk, those should be underneath. These ones, not a huge problem because it's so steep, but that's just lack of training. These nails that they put the tar over, these ones should not be the ones that have the exposed nail. The exposed nail should be down here at this end. So I don't like the way they did that. And then putting caulking on top of these. So because the pitch on this is so steep, these shingles, if they're not specially made ridge shingles, they're going to crack. So you can see this one's got cracks in it, this one's got cracks, and these cracks have been here for a long time. I imagine this, somebody just tried to repair this a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago. And I would never put silicone on an asphalt shingle. You always put tar on an asphalt shingle. And before I get down, let's take a good look at these pieces of the siding trim. This one is bad from about here down. The one next to it is just all the rot is coming in from this side. Most of it's not actually rotten, it's just swelling. This is where it's actually starting to rot. But where you see the bubbling like this is just where water has gotten inside. It's starting to make the wood swell, which will hold on to water, and then the rot will happen. So that's starting to happen kind of everywhere. This one doesn't have it yet. This one doesn't, that one does. And I don't know if you just saw that. There's a nail sticking out. That one shouldn't actually be hurting anything, but I noticed some of these panels, these are actual wood. Most of them are in really nice shape. There's a couple there that are showing rot. And we'll look at that more down at the bottom. Last thing is these edges around the bottom. We already talked about what's happening there. But as I inspected around the corners, most of them look kind of like this. Either there's no apparent swelling or just a little bit like this. But it's happening kind of everywhere. And then these, some of them didn't get caulked at all. Most of them did, and it was with the right material, it was with tar. But those have all just kind of worn out. This roof looks older than it is. It looks like it's closer to 20 years old. And I would say it's probably a good idea to start thinking about replacing it. Repairing it's going to be really tricky. One thing that we do to gauge how worn out a shingle is how flexible it is. Second is how many granules come off. But a good shingle, and I think these are GAF, which is a good brand, the granules will stick for a long time, but this one you can see just has cracks in it, and that's as far as I can bend that. I can feel it cracking, so I don't want to push it any further than that. But here's a corner that has no apparent wear. It should have a lot more flex than this for being only 15 years old. So that's what that means as far as a repair goes. let's say for example I wanted to take this shingle out and repair it. I would have to take out the nails that are right under here, and in order to do that I've got to bend this one out of the way. When you bend this far enough out of the way to remove this shingle, it's going to crack this one, and so that's going to ruin it. And the bad thing about that is there's always one on top of it until you get all the way up to the top. So it's really hard to replace this shingle down at the bottom without just replacing everything all the way up either to the wall or to the ridge, and that gets really pricey. A large repair like that gets pricey enough that it makes more sense to replace the roof than just to start repairing things. So that's probably going to be my recommendation, is to replace the whole roof, even though if it's not leaking, sometimes it's hard to justify. Now that part up at the top where we're seeing tar paper is pretty bad though. That definitely is going to have water coming in every time it rains.